Oh man. Okay, so your head. You real quick, walk me through this shit again. You were number one,
Okay,
like
so
hold on, shame on you. You were sick and still going to cut people's hair instead of taking care of your damn self.
so well, let's preface this a little bit. I started getting sick like Saturday night of the NARBC Arlington weekend.
Oh,
So like I
thanks
was
for
already,
sharing.
well, I told you. I was like, "Hey, let's get some decongested on the way." Oh no, I guess it was Sunday because we were heading out to San
Oh,
Antonio.
that's right. It was Sunday though. You did want to get decongestant.
Yeah, I was stuffed up and I thought I kind of felt that coming on maybe the day before, but not all the way. Um and yeah, so uh pretty sick when I woke up the next day in Salt Lake City, pretty fluish, thought I might have COVID, so I took a couple tests. They both came back negative. But then we heard Melissa ended up coming down with COVID. So I'm
Yeah, that
pretty
sucks.
convinced I was fighting off COVID or something like fluish.
So I'm going to go back to my original statement, which was should have been taking care of yourself instead of cutting people's hair.
Yeah, no. The first day, Monday, we had a let's see, it was a little just community event where we go out and cut hair for these homeless people out in Salt Lake near the airport. I couldn't miss that. I don't, you know, I wore a mask and I just let my students take care of the people out there that day. So I got to sit back and just do that morning. And then work was pretty good with me. Just like, hey, if you feel like you can't come in, don't come in. But of course, I was like, if I feel like I can be up and around, like I'll wear a mask and observe as much as I can. So I think there were a couple days that I went in for, 4 hours or so and then just called it, and then after that, I had just a few clients over the weekend at the salon, and I figured, okay, well, come Thursday, I shouldn't be passing it to anyone. It should be 5 or 6 days out. So, um, yeah, went in for two clients on Thursday evening. Only spent like 2 hours at the school, so I didn't really spend too much time at the school. Did my first client. Uh, I was a little bit more quiet than usual, so I guess that was throwing off one of my coworkers. She knew something was up.
Which, by
I
the way, you got great barber chat when you cut hair. I can say that from experience now.
Yeah, I was noticing it a little bit. And then my friend was getting his hair cut afterwards. He came in and I was just cleaning up. I decided, hey, I'm going to go blow my nose so I'm not sniffling the whole time while cutting your hair. So I went into the bathroom and blew my nose. And this this will explain why I hit my elbow. But we got new sweaters in, and my bald head was all fuzzy. So when I put the new sweater on, it picked up all these fuzzies, and I noticed it in the mirror. So I'm starting to like wipe off my head and stuff, and kind of flailing my arms around. And we have these big metal
Can I
shelves.
can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to get into the habit of saying I was wiping my head instead of wiping my hair?
Oh, I don't know.
I figured like that would I feel like I would slip up on that if I became bald.
I've been bald years, so
Okay, fair. All right, continue.
so yeah, flailing my arms around trying to get the shit off my head, and I just take the people's elbow down onto the corner of one of these metal racks, and I hit my funny bone just so hard that it was like one of those, grit your teeth and just hope for the best kind of situations. So like I was doing that, and I was
It
just
made it
like, oh
just broke
god,
my
this is.
elbow.
I was just like, wow, this is really, really bad.
Did it lock
So
you up?
I can't even remember that.
Because dude, I've hit it so hard where I've locked up. I can't open my hand for like a minute.
I know I was just holding it and like trying not to like scream because like I had my coworkers out there, my friend out there. I didn't want to like cause a scene until I caused a scene. Um and so I got the last thing I remember is I get down onto my knees because I was just in so much pain. And that's the last thing I remember until just waking up. Uh in kind of a panic, staring at my feet on the ground of the bathroom. Didn't really know where I was at. And so I hear my coworker yelling my name outside the door. So I get up, I get out of the bathroom, just in kind of a daze. And she was just like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And then she was like, "Oh, you're bleeding everywhere." And yeah,
Everywhere.
it was bad.
I'm surprised, like with the pictures you sent me. I'm surprised there wasn't just like a decent puddle of blood that you were laying on.
There was.
Oh, okay. So you just were that days waking up, you didn't even realize you're laying in blood.
I didn't see it. Yeah, it was all over
I
my
can imagine it
neck.
looks like a horror scene.
Yeah, it
Sorry, I'm making
was.
a joke of this. I'm glad you're fine. I'm glad you're
Yeah,
good. But
dude. Yeah, it was definitely scary. Yeah, I didn't.
so Nathan has 7 stitches in the back of his head because he hit his funny bone.
Yeah. Doctors, I wish I would have remembered the name of the nerve. I want to say that they call it the vagus nerve or something along those lines.
That sounds right.
But they said, yeah, if it gets triggered bad enough, like you can faint from it. So
Well, there you go.
yeah, this is where I really miss having hair.
Yeah.
Didn't have anything to cushion the fall.
Nothing. Just literally, I don't even know, tile, I'm guessing, but
No, just
no,
concrete.
just concrete.
Yeah,
Okay, that I
kind of
can
worst case scenario.
right, and I can also see just kind of like the studio kind of vibe, right? The concrete kind of fits the vibe of the place because I know there's brick on the inside, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going off on a tangent here, but anyways, glad you're okay. Concussion symptoms, how you like? All good now?
Yeah, definitely was concussed. But yeah, the last few days
We're
have,
recording.
yeah, we're recording. I have my headphones on, like it's not on my stitches, so that's nice.
Right.
I'm just more concerned about when I get to get back on my bike.
Oh, you're not going to go this upcoming Thursday?
Well, I missed last Thursday because that's when it happened. So
Yeah.
that was the biggest bummer of all of it for me. I'm sitting at the hospital going, I can't
Yeah.
ride my bike tonight.
Just wear a helmet.
Oh yeah, definitely. I
And
feel like I should wear a helmet just in life now.
right, walking around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
that kind of stuff will show you just how, you know, fragile our lives are. It's scary when you have to get reminders like that, but
Right. Any trip to the hospital, and I know a lot of people are probably listening and they're like, stitches, that's happened to me 100 times. Like, totally. Like, I get that. It's not like Nathan had pneumonia and was in the hospital for a week. But at the end of the day, like you wake up not knowing where you are, and then you go to the hospital and you're getting stitches, especially if that stuff hasn't happened to you a lot. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's scary.
yeah. Yeah.
So I want to, first off, episode 62. Welcome everyone, and I want to talk a little bit about today. I kind of want to just recap Arlington a bit and just kind of talk about getting to meet you and that kind of stuff. But if you guys are listening for the first time, or if you are listening for the second or third or fourth or fifth time, but you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button as well. So that way, when we release episodes, although we release them every Friday in the morning. Yeah, again, want to always give a shout out to our Patreon members down there. Patreon.com, the Retic Lounge. We have a growing community and a Discord that's always popping. So if you guys are feeling like you want to hop on board to talk retics, or a bunch of other stuff. I think today the chat was popping off, and I think maybe like 1 out of the 8 conversations were retic related. Yeah, love the community. Appreciate all of you for the support. Whether you're just getting into retics or you've been breeding for years, the first place you want to visit is Stewart Design. More and more breeders keep showing up at shows, on Morph Market, and are all over social media. Sometimes it may feel possible to get anyone's attention. Stewart Designs helps small businesses like yours do big things through brand clarity, helping entrepreneurs to start and scale businesses that are easy to know and love. Their work can help any company or industry, but they've done a ton of work for ours. Stewart Design created the brands for USARK, Canova, Reach Out Reptiles, Coiled, and dozens of other well-known reptile breeders. Like many of us, the owner of Stewart Design, Blake, is a keeper and breeder who fell in love with retics through first working with Garrett Hartle. Although Stewart Design does a lot of corporate work, Blake has a passion for working with people in the reptile industry. Stewart Design can help if you're just getting started or you're ready to take things to the next level, you're struggling to stand out and build your presence online or at shows, you don't want to be like the other guys or get lost in the crowd, and you want to make your own way doing what you love. And also, you have big ideas and know your business is special, but you need help sharing it with the reptile community. If something here resonates with you, reach out to Blake and have a conversation. To learn more or get started, visit stewartdesignbrands.com or call them at 855 SD Logos. Clear brands own markets. Stewart Design helps create them. If you are in the market for an enclosure for your reticulated python or any other one of your reptiles, Focus Cubed Habitats is your one-stop shop for not only the best-looking cages on the market, but also provide amazing features and add-ons to your cages. We partnered with Focus Cubed Habitats because they continue to innovate and change the way we house our animals unlike any other caging company out there. Their cages are designed intelligently and provide the most stylish and secure housing for your animals' comfort and well-being. Visit focuscubedhabitats.com for your animals' caging needs. Again, visit focuscubedhabitats.com for some amazing and stylish enclosures.
We also want to thank VivTech Products for being an affiliate sponsor of the Retic Lounge. Stop by VivTech Products for the best UV spectrum lighting on the market that will enhance and improve your snake's overall well-being and health. Visit vivtechproducts.com and use the code ReticLounge23 today for 15% off. Again, visit vivtechproducts.com and use our affiliate code ReticLounge23 today for 15% off.
Looking for the perfect accessories for your hatchlings or juvenile retics? Look no further than Heli Guy Serpents. Our sponsor, Chris Sexton, is coming in hot with an amazing 3D printer, creating top-notch perches and other caging accessories for your beloved pets. Enrich your retics environment with their high-quality products. Use our promo code TRL10 for a 10% discount on your purchase. Visit them today at heliguyserpents.com and start giving your pets the best. Heli Guy Serpents, the premier source for 3D printed caging accessories. Again, that's www.heliguyserpents.com and use our promo code TRL10 for 10% off all of your 3D printed accessories today.
So yeah, I mean, you want to jump into just our quick little weekend at Arlington? I mean, I feel like we didn't do the show as normal as I think both of us usually do our shows.
Yeah, so like I would definitely call this an Arlington recap. I'm not going to call it an Arlington NARBC recap, right? Because at the end of the day, I think we were there for 3 hours on Saturday.
Got to say hi to like the people we knew, but like we didn't get to explore as much as I hoped.
And we had a few Patreon members there as well when I was going back and looking at who was going, and like we didn't even like
who was there.
Don't make me go back into my messages. There were people there. I spoke to them.
Are you spoke to them at the show?
No. But people were. It was on the Discord today. Someone said that they went, and I talked to like 8 people. So sorry, I'm terrible with names. But when it comes to like, so Nathan arrived there Thursday evening. I arrived there like late, like I got to Phil's at midnight. And then we recorded last week's episode and we were up till 4 a.m. We kind of slept in, and then
we barely had time to say hi to each other before we started just setting up. So
right.
It wasn't as bad as I thought. Like it was pretty comfortable just right off the bat. It didn't feel like meeting anyone new, but
yeah, no, I totally agree. You were taller than I imagined.
That's good.
Right.
Ladies. Tall.
But yeah, no, it was one of those things where we started recording so soon that I remember sitting down on the couch next to you when we were going to record. And then when we started recording, and then I looked over to you and you were like that close to me. I was like, oh shit, like he's here. Like this is real life. that's like kind of when it hit me. But yeah, then Friday, we slept in and then we got a bite to eat. And what else did we do anything on Friday?
We just went to the liquor store and then went over to Bill's.
Yeah, we got food, liquor store, and then the mayor's house.
Some of the first to get there and some of the last to leave.
Exactly.
It was fun.
It was, that's a great time, and I could talk about that for hours. But
I'm going to be practicing cornhole until next year.
Good. That's what I want to hear. So then we woke up on Saturday, and Adler Romero, who was on last week's episode, he's working on a amazing like docuseries, cinematography type of thing of kind of what these animals give us and bring to us. Check out his YouTube, Serpents Eclipse Reptiles. He has mine is up. He just posted Bill's up. He's doing a great job with that. So we went there to record that, and we got done with that at like 2, and then 45-minute drive to the show.
Yeah. Well, and how about Adler's just documentation of, candid shots from around the weekend?
Oh yeah. I mean, the guy is like, when it comes to art and creativity, I have yet to see something that he hasn't been able to do.
Yeah. I mean, guys, I don't think we state this enough on our podcast, but Adler does so much work for this show, and getting to see him work and what he produces this weekend firsthand. Like, if you need anything multimedia done to enhance your brand, make sure you're hitting up Adler. He'll definitely be able to add some value to you.
Yeah. And what's cool is me and him kind of have like this older little brother relationship where, I like
wrestling match in the morning.
Right. Literally in the morning at like 10, and we're hungover. So I always I can tell when he's in like his zone, his like artistic zone, and I'll always fuck with him and he gets pissed. But yeah, so we did that, and then we went to the show, right? And then we stayed at the auction after the show.
Well, we pre-partied the auction.
We pre-partied the auction, but yeah, so we hung out with Ryan McVeigh. Shout out to VidTech, one of our sponsors. Thank you for always, like, even though Arlington and Texas is not your home, like, just being able to hang out at your booth kind of make us feel at home. It's funny how, like, I feel like Ryan and Erica both provide this sense of hospitality, even when they're not, when you're not at their place.
And to almost anyone that talks to them, like
anybody,
they are the warmest people. They're really cool.
Right.
So yeah, getting to see Ryan is always like seeing like a long, spread cousin or something like that. Someone that's like across the country. So, yeah, always cool to see Ryan. Oh, what else was I going to say? I don't know. You keep going for a second, but it'll come back to me.
Yeah, so then we left. We didn't stay for the full show. Oh, by the way, just more people. I don't know about you, Nathan, but got to meet one of our Patreon members, as well as just a long, I wouldn't say long time, but Jordan Carpenter, Heartland Reptiles.
That's what it was. Thank you. Yeah.
Got to meet him, and I wish we would have been able to spend a lot more time with him, but he
was so busy. So I just want to give him like a massive shout out, because he hustled his ass off to even make any of this happen. Jordan went down, drove his trailer hours and hours with his, beautiful cages.
Yeah. From Kansas over to
Dallas.
Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So drives down, no promise of having a table.
He did not have a table.
Yeah, all tables are sold out. So he goes, I'm going to go see if anyone doesn't have their table this year or whatever. And, worst comes to worst, I'll talk with people, I'll advertise, and I'll show them my enclosures in the trailers. And shows up, and just showing up and having that attitude paid off for him. He got an amazing spot in the expo, right next to VivTech. He had Bob the turkey vulture right next to him, so he has a crowd drawn in the entire time. And, just beautiful cages that could not help but having most people stop by and ask a little bit about them.
So I also want to say this. I want to touch real quick before we kind of move forward, but like, when I thought of like what Jordan did, right? For those of you that don't know, and I'm not going to give any specifics or anything, but for someone, Jordan, who invested so much money, time, planning to create a type of enclosure that has never been created before. And then with, obviously all of this business debt, the dude is like, I'm going to travel 8 hours on the road, not even guarantee that anyone will be able to see my cages. It reminds me of the movie like Pursuit of Happiness. Like,
I was thinking more like The Founder.
Yeah, that too. But just one of those things where like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just like in today's day and age, especially with like, maybe new retic breeders, they go all in and they get these animals and think 1 + 1 = 2. And but I don't know. There's something that like literally inspired me about what he did. Like that's a whole different type of work ethic, believing in what you are making and manufacturing, and on top of that, he does it with a smile on his face, even though I've had multiple phone calls where the dude is just pissed off and he is exhausted.
I mean, he told us his little story at Bill's about, some of the back and forth it took to get him that spot. But, ultimately, he put on a happy face and,
Right.
didn't try to take anything personally, and it all worked out in his favor in the end, I think.
Yeah. And so I don't want to like,
well,
focus...
wait, Lucas,
What?
we're talking about Jordan and all this stuff. You brought home one of his cages. What are you thinking about it so far? How is it fitting into that tiny garage that's filled to the freaking brim?
I moved some stuff around and everything. First of all, it's 400 square feet. How big's your room, buddy?
And mine's tiny. It's smaller than your garage. I promise you that, but it is not as packed as your garage.
So I moved everything.
You made me realize I have so much more cage space in here.
Well, I want you. Oh yeah. I mean, it's Tetris. It's a game of Tetris. But even with that, I'm defending myself here. I still have like 6 feet behind me when I open up a retic enclosure. So
yeah, that's the thing is when I create a wall of cages around here, like I don't want to put one by the windows, so probably not back there or like just off to my left here. Especially in the summer, I run an AC unit over here. But I don't think I'll have that 6 feet space. I'll have maybe 4, 5.
That's a luxury, because I'll tell you what, I know the way that I kept my snakes upstairs in the little room that I have.
See, I didn't get to go upstairs and see the studio.
I know. Wait, no, the studio.
I only had
the studio. Yeah, an hour and a half maybe, and we were moving cages into the garage.
Oh, this is all downstairs?
Yeah, this is in the guest bedroom downstairs.
Oh, I thought for sure that was upstairs.
No,
okay.
my daughter sleeps upstairs. I can't record.
Okay.
And that's where our bedroom is too. My wife would probably shoot me if she heard us talking while she was trying to sleep.
It was so, and that brings me into, I mean, the last day I kind of talked about it before the head injury story, but went over to your place and finally got to see the lab.
Right. And man, I'm bummed. Number one, because just Nathan was nodding off and passed out by the time we pulled up into my driveway. But we were just tired from a long drive, tired from a busy weekend, and every snake that I wanted him to, like, I really wanted him to hold the wild caught female Caltoa, but she was like deep in shed.
I still would have.
And I don't like to really mess with her when she's become a sweetheart, and so I give her that space.
You're like, this is your time.
Right, this is your time. You don't want to be bothered.
No, but my Annery is getting to that cycling point, and when she's going through that food cycle, like, should I pause?
No. I want you to continue, but I feel like I want to talk a lot about like just the current like new season up and coming and things like that. But go for it.
No, I'm just when she starts getting that way, I start becoming just a little bit more hands off in terms of her keeping.
Right.
She loves to buck. She loves to huff and puff and just, put up a little bit of a fight. And, if she's acting that uncomfortable while getting her out, I don't try to force the issue.
Right. And this is also like, I finally found a way to get her to not cycle this year, because she has cycled every year for me.
Ooh.
even if I don't, I finally found a way, and that was to just like literally feed her a jumbo rat every 3-4 weeks.
So just drastically decrease her meal size. Just
Yeah, like caloric deficit.
yeah.
And but what
Okay.
the last like month, she has definitely, food response has been increasing. I could tell that she wants to cycle, but also she's doing that twitchy thing as well. But fortunately, I don't she's definitely not going to cycle. But what did you, I mean, obviously I feel it sucks because you came in and you saw like we moved everything in, but I mean, what did you think about the setup and the animals?
It made me realize how many animals you had, and thank God you have Sean.
I mean, I will say like Sean has had to cut back to like about once a week now, and then when
Even that though is,
I mean, it's definitely a
almost
tremendous
all you
help and super thankful. But I mean, there's been, I would say a couple months ago, I went like 2-3 weeks without him, and I was able to hold up the fort. Now I stay up later than usual, but like I'm not going to let my animals suffer because it's definitely, it's a luxury that I have Sean. He's amazing and he's a great asset and super helpful. But yeah, I would be a little more tired if I didn't have him. But yeah, and fortunately, he's only a sophomore, and I got him for 3 years. So
yeah, that shocked me too. I mean,
he's a
it
big
was
dude.
great meeting Sean, and then on the ride out to the airport, I was like, wait, Lucas told me this kid was like young, and then I had to have him remind me how young Sean was, and I was like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
thought he was 2-3 years older, easy.
What's amazing about him is how like he's a sponge. He absorbs everything. And
Very mature. He knows
he's
a
wise,
ton
and he's 15
about these animals.
Yeah, I mean, he's been with me for a little over a year, on average 3 days a week. And he gets to hear my rants. He gets to hear me teach. He gets to hear basically everything I've ever shared on this podcast and some. And he absorbs it all, and he is always learning. And the crazy thing is like when you take a step back and talk about the grand scheme of reptiles in general, I can humbly say he knows more than me.
Oh, I knew instantly that
He is so smart. He knows
than
so
me.
much.
And with how he works over there, I mean, and how many animals you have, I would say he has more handling experience than probably I do at this point. I mean, he's handled in numbers far more hatchlings, far bigger animals than I do on a daily basis. So, yeah, I mean, that kid's come a long way super fast. So,
Yeah, I mean,
kudos to you, man.
Yeah, I mean,
you found a good one.
Oh, absolutely. And it was literally a church. So I have a handyman that goes to the church that's down the road here that I also go to, and he's like, "Hey, man, like there's some people at the church that her son is just like a super nerd about reptiles and loves reptiles, and he'd love to come over and see them." And literally that Sunday he came over. And what's awesome is that he asked me, he's like, "Hey, could I like come over and like just like help out?" He's like, "I love retics," and he had just discovered them from Garrett
cool,
on YouTube, and I was like,
really
absolutely, like come over. And I did not think that this was going to turn out to where it became, but yeah, I mean, it's to the point now that when I'm in the garage, besides my big and mostly grumpy Solaire, I'm fine with him taking out any animal by himself if I'm in that garage. I'm talking about F1 Philippines, a wild-caught Kalatoa, ternates, which if you guys who keep ternates know when their food response is intense, like the Halmahera hatchlings or the yearlings.
Say
like
the Halmas.
Dude,
so I've never been around any of these. Are those Maluku?
Yeah, the Halmaheras and ternates are Maluku.
Yeah. So I've never been around any of the Maluku localities until I got to Phil's house the first night. And he goes, "Here's my Halmahera cage." And as soon as we get anywhere near it, the thing's like a lightning bolt and just darting across the cage looking at us. And I'm just like, none of my snakes do that.
No.
What is this thing?
They're quick. They're methodical. They are always hungry. I I told Phil that.
I don't know why you don't take a video of one of them doing that in the cage, like getting all excited, and use that Instagram sound that's like he's a heat-seeking,
Right.
you know. I don't know what the full thing is, but
I
perfect for it.
I will say that we've worked because of the experiment with the female.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I didn't really see her. She was up in her sky hide, so
she was in shed.
Yep.
She literally shed that night. And then the male was also in shed too.
Yeah, because that was one snake I was excited to see, because I knew the Halma's personalities. And so I was like, oh, well, we have this focus cube habitat. We have this experiment that we've been doing in terms of socialization and trying to calm our snakes down in one way or another.
And she didn't want to come out.
Yep. I mean, I even kind of like tapped on the glass a little bit, opened the door, like tried to encourage.
Sean
was poking her.
No, so we didn't know where she was, and he's like, "Oh, she's probably in her sky hide." And then when we opened the door, and we looked around. Typically, even in shed, when we open up that door, she'll at least poke her little nose out, but she wasn't. So Sean had the hook, and he reached up and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can feel her back here," and like even if you like tap her, like typically she would come out, even in shed. But no, I mean, I will say that my male Halmahera in the rack, when I pull open the rack, he's very quick like Phil's, but he is very, once you get him out, very slow. They think a lot. Same with the female. I absolutely love that locality. But so you got to see the Halmas, you got to see some ternates.
Coyote. So, I mean, Spencer, I'm gonna call you out because I could have seen Coyote a long time ago, but you're hard enough, even though I'm in state, to get me to come over. But
the guy's living his best life.
He is, man. He's living it up. So I got to see Coyote in person for the first time, because for me, and this might be just a red-green colorblind thing where I can't distinguish the colors as well as maybe everyone else, but I got to see Coyote and a Kalatoa next to each other for the first time. And I know what a Kalatoa is supposed to look like in my eyes, I guess.
At least some range of what they look like, right?
Yeah. So in pictures, I was always like, you like can't see a giant difference. I don't know why you would go with one over the other. And then I got to see Lucas's, and the color saturation and just how the color is dispersed in that animal is totally different.
Yeah, it's very easy when you have them side by side. But yeah, with pictures, I mean, if you're just flicking through a social media, you're flipping through, you see a Kalatoa, and then again, you come across a few pictures later, a Coyote. It's kind of, I mean, I could see where you're coming from. Again, I'm not a very fair person to have the conversation because I weirdly obsessed with localities. So I pay attention to every new, like if you look at the head structure and
I think it's
difference,
easy for you because you get that hands-on experience, you get that in-person experience all the time. I get, I'm working with beautiful animals, but they're mostly Kalatoa small Jampea crosses.
Yeah, you have beautiful morphs.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to come over, see that, and then Adler and Phil, again, shout out to Phil and Adler for coming over, and they helped bring some more cages in. I want to give a shout out to Focus Cube, one of our sponsors as well, because they made me some custom, beautiful, like absolutely beautiful custom Focus Cube enclosures for my little, for now, small chondro project.
Send me a picture of how you set up the rest of those cages, by the way.
I set them up to where they're spaced now, but
I know at least where the focus cubes are at. I want to see the focus cubes, that little stack that you have, and then I want to see the carpenter enclosure.
Once the Solaire lays, I'm doing the final move around to get everything where I need it to be.
Okay.
Yeah, the Solaire is laying in a few days.
And that I'm so excited about.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully she doesn't, dude. I'm gonna be heartbroken if she slugs out, but I'm almost like thinking she is.
Yeah. I mean, fingers crossed. I think she's going to lay a good clutch, but you know,
I'm mentally just preparing myself for the heartbreak so I don't cry.
yeah, I mean, they're notorious for laying bad clutches, so let's just
Notorious for slugging, notorious for egg bound.
all right, let's shut the hell up. And we're getting too far away from talking about Focus Cubed
Yeah.
anyway. This was my first time meeting Steven and Ashley.
They are
and
badass.
they're amazing people. I mean, I kind of assume so with just how they conduct themselves online. All of my interactions with both Steven and Ashley over Messenger over the couple of years that I've been talking to them. So, I mean, I want to hang out with them as much as I can when I'm out in Texas. They're just great people.
And what you didn't get
in that
you didn't
cage, that heretic.
Oh yeah, dude.
My God.
But before we go into that, because I definitely feel like we need to go into that. But you didn't even get to experience the Ashley and Steven of the previous NARBC where they were up till 2 at Bill's with us and drinking, but they are
I
still
feel like
just
with how our night before went though, like
I'm glad.
we
Yeah,
wouldn't
me
have
too.
we would not have gone to the show at all if that would have happened at Bill's.
That's why Bill like that. Like, I mean, Bill had a long night the night before with all the Chondro people drinking everything. So Bill's like, dude, I was so happy everybody was out by like 12. Yeah, I mean, Steven, Ashley, not only just thankful for sponsoring us, but also just being great people. They did some custom enclosures for me that look absolutely just I could not be happier with them. And then the Heretic version 4. I've been following this step by step, and in each variation and version, and that's the thing that I love about Focus Cube is, on Heretic 1.0 or 2.0, most other people would have been like, all right,
were amazing
this is good.
Yep.
This is good, right? Like even version 1 was just amazing. But they keep taking it a step up and step up. So go onto their Instagram, look at in their YouTube, look at the new video that they have of the Heretic 4. They just put their BAC green tree python in there. Completely bioactive. Has a I don't even know what to call it, but it has like one of those blue gallon, large water things like under the enclosure that you can see.
Oh, that was it was set up for a Miss King.
Yeah, so with a Miss King, and then has fans in there, has several perches, rock backgrounds, and it's just like, I don't know, the epitome. Like, I would want to have that. Like, I imagine myself if I was ever rich and you walk into my house and you open the door and it's a long hallway in front of you, that's what I would want to be the first thing that someone sees when they enter my house. Like, that's how beautiful that cage is.
So I hope they hear this part, and maybe we'll just link it to them or something. But I've talked about tree monitors and wanting to own them forever. I got to talk to a ton of people at Arlington about getting started and all that. But they have an Ascent that's, I believe, a 4 foot by 3 by 6 foot tall. I want that. Oh, I hate it, Lucas. The fact that those aren't in the mail right now makes me want to cry.
I need to get the right type of stuff to ship it in. I don't want it to
get
bend.
the bubbly mailers.
So I Nathan got those, and I got one of these.
Nice. But I this is my call to them because I love that enclosure so much, that Ascent. I think it's time that they make that front almost like that Heretic V4. I don't know if it's possible doing like a big bioactive substrate dam, if that material in the front is strong enough to hold that up. But I mean, they're doing a substrate dam in the Heretic.
No, dude,
so...
that stuff is laser cut like that. It's yeah.
Well, I know it's just a longer cage. It's 4 foot.
Yeah. But
that would be like it already is my dream cage, that Ascent. But I mean, with that finishing, how they have that Heretic dialed in now, I mean, it just set my mind spinning about what animals I'd throw in and how happy I'd be to just sit and stare at that thing all day.
And that's where that's where my heart keeps going with, like, even just retics, and then now getting my first Neo green tree python. Thank you, Bill. Is like, yeah, like when I see that like I don't know, I just feel like it just brings like the endorphin, the serotonin, the dopamine, it just all shoots up, and it just feels amazing. Even with my rack that's bioactive, just feels so much better than looking into just in my enclosure. Like you saw my enclosures are really good size. I have decent size enclosures, animals that I have
Even
pure.
even I mean, with what I've learned over the last couple years, seeing other people's setups and everything, I'm redoing at least my hatchling racks before I have more babies on the ground this year. Definitely redoing my incubator, talking with people, and just talking about different setups. So
Yeah,
it just gives you ideas. And I mean, back to that cage. I mean, even though it had nothing in it, it pills. I found people staring at that thing more than cages with animals a lot of the time.
right. And I want to go back to a question you asked me. I didn't get the chance to answer, but you asked me what I thought of Heartland Reptiles Enclosure. Of Jordan's Enclosure. I didn't get to like go into detail about what I think, but
Okay,
I
and
kind
I would love to talk about it more because I can
yeah,
talk about how I felt beforehand after I
and that
saw it, everything. So
so I'm glad that you actually said that. So I wanted to make a disclaimer. Again, we just gave major props to Focus Cube, and yes, they are our sponsor. We love them, but I also just want to talk about Jordan, who's a personal like great friend of mine that was willing to put one of his cages in my hands to kind of trial and go through and see how it is. But
well,
I
and I
was
think
I was gonna
they don't really
actually.
step on each other's toes. They really
Oh yeah, it's a different market.
progress the enclosure industry forward without trying to be in the same space.
Yeah,
And I think it's great that we talk about both of them today.
yeah. But what's funny was I was gonna actually ask you before I gave my opinion. I was gonna ask you what your thoughts were about them, because I know like you had some preconceived thoughts like before you saw them.
Yeah, I think it's easy to when you see something that's so off the beaten path that it just challenges your ideas of what the box for my reptile is going to be. Um, there were some insulation factors that had crossed my mind that may be an issue, and
They're aluminum, by the way.
yep.
Just to throw that out there in case you're wondering like why insulation's a big deal.
Well, and then there was an insulation layer between the top and bottom. That was great. Uh, let's see, just edging and just places that an animal could potentially push was a giant thing for me. I think there was one lip around the shelf, around the bottom edge of the shelf, if I remember correctly, that made me maybe just a little bit nervous. I would have to see pictures of it again, but I was kind of feeling around, looking around when I was at the show. Um, the
And I would probably even preface, you got to have a problematic
Yeah, it would have to be a
retic,
problematic snake that was looking to push.
right, that
But
could
that
possibly
that's where my mind goes. Like,
right always
if I have
because
a destructive snake, how is it going to destroy itself on this cage?
no, I'm the same way because I faced that same issue with my the Kayuwadi that you saw. Her first from year one when she turned a year old, from year one to year two. Yeah, she was just pushing relentlessly.
Yeah, and I've had animals like that. I've worked with animals who in the past have been really bad pushers. So, that's when I buy caging, that's a big concern of mine. Um,
So what were your thoughts about it?
I think that thing's going to be damn near indestructible.
Yeah.
I would like to see Jordan have the same mindset of focus cubed and just keep pushing it, keep pushing it, keep pushing it.
Oh, we're already talking about version 2 together.
Yeah, so that's good. And I after meeting Jordan in person, I think he's that kind of person that would keep going for it. He's very mechanically inclined. He's worked on his own diesel trucks, so I just think that he has the attitude where if there's a problem, he's going to find a better solution for it.
Yeah.
And these cages are just going to get better. But I mean, you saw pictures from the U.S. ARC auction that we weren't able to stay from. They had people on top of it, inside of it.
Dude,
These things.
he auctioned off a 6-footer. There was
Oh, I thought
someone,
it was an 8-footer for some reason.
maybe it was the 8 or 6-footer, maybe the 8-footer, but sorry, Jordan. But there was,
I think you're right, but
there was someone laying on the floor on the inside. There was someone else laying on the shelf inside of the enclosure, a human being laying on the shelf inside of the enclosure, and him and Phil, president of USARC, were standing on top of it. Like that, 4 humans. That cage was, and I will say, I got it in my garage right now, and I have zero doubts that this is a type of enclosure that is going to literally last the lifetime of an animal. You buy one, and that's the only cage that you will ever need for that snake. And now
you can customize them too. It doesn't have to just be that cage forever, which I love.
Yeah, he has a way to add on more cages, so you can get
a playground, so 4 different animals can utilize that one playground.
Right, it's insane what he's thinking in regards to, your 6-footer could then turn into a 12-footer by just buying another 6-footer, opening up the square compartment, and allowing the snake to have a access to a whole other enclosure that,
or just breeding purposes.
Yeah, exactly. So
which I'm sure that's some things you've been talking with him about version 2, about making those dividers a little bit more easy to
so
open, close kind
the
of
divider
thing.
Which he already had.
No, he already does. Never mind.
Yeah, he fixed that and had that ready for the show. That was like a last minute thing that he did, but then
I totally spaced it.
He also version 2, we're talking about adding a lip for like a substrate dam. Because right now,
I remember you talking about
it's
that.
pretty flat, but I'll give a full review of it, on my Instagram, and we'll probably talk about it later on the podcast. I still don't have a snake in it because, like I said, I'm waiting for the Solaire to lay so I can then stack it on top, and I got to move some stuff around. But at the end of the day, they are solid, lifetime, indestructible. He's talking about having a 5-year written warranty on them. I'm excited for him and excited to see what he does with those cages. He's going to hate me for saying cages. Sorry, enclosures.
Yeah. We don't. I've tried to steer away from saying that word.
They're boxes. Okay, good. Come on. He made a joke. He's like, is your house your cage? And I was like, absolutely.
And he's like, that's a depressing way to look at it.
But yeah,
No, we need to have him on to talk about it. One thing, just being a metal cage that, was a concern of mine. Back surgery, old man. How heavy is this freaking cage going to be if I buy one? I could,
they're lighter than my jungle cages.
You're going to want a friend to lift it with you. It's still a big thing, but very manageable with 2 able-bodied people. Yeah. Like I would say, I wish I remembered the weight on his 4 stacks. But I would say the 8-foot cage that we moved, easily under 100 pounds.
Yeah, I don't know what the weight is for them. All I do know is my 6-foot jungle cages that are 6 inches shorter are heavier. They're ABS plastic and they're heavier than his aluminum cages. That's
good to know because I've definitely considered jungle cages. Just seeing as they're so close to me.
Yeah, jungle cages has been my go-to for large enclosures because they are, the way that he.
I've seen those in person with Weston, but I never got to see the shelving that you came up with, and I think that shelving is pretty.
You liked it, right?
Pretty brilliant. I don't know if you saw in the Retic Alliance or the Retic Nation, but someone just got it looked like a jungle cage.
Yeah, it was a jungle cage with the staggered shelves.
Staggered shelves. That was really cool. I would love that for just, rotating in a display animal or something.
Yeah, he messaged me and he's like, hey, what enclosures? And I talked him through jungle cages and he's like, I want it to be 3 feet tall. And I said, dude, if you do 3 feet, get staggered shelves. And he went with it.
Out and be able
it looks
to climb
amazing
at the same time. That's a great idea for your retics.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely, this enclosure is something I'm super excited about with the strength, durability, lifetime type of mentality. Because when you have a retic and you're buying it, it's permanent enclosure. I made the mistake in the past of buying, other. I'm not going to say any brands, but buying other.
I'll say brands. Like when I was getting into retics, when I was getting into larger snakes, I didn't necessarily know I was getting into retics. I thought originally I was getting into boas, and back then, doing a quick few Google searches and watching some videos on YouTube, I came across Jeff Ron from Boafile, and I love his cages, but are they set up for the best environment for a retic or a super dwarf retic? Probably not. So it's stuff that I want to upgrade over time. And then, there's other brands that, they work great. They're the right size, the right specifications, but there's little things I would change.
Yeah, I mean, and aside from just changing, one thing that for me, like I bought 4 different PVC enclosures, and not including Focus Cube, because that's the one thing that I've been just like astronomically impressed with Focus Cube is the quality of the PVC that they use. But like the 4 other brands that I had used, the wear and tear over the 2 years that I kept them, I was like, if I got an 8-footer, for this animal, and the wear and tear was the same, like I'm gonna have to replace this at some point. And at the end of the day, if I'm buying a snake's final enclosure, or final size, I should say, like I don't want to replace that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I mean,
is that your cat in the background, by the way?
Yes.
I keep seeing you mute yourself, and I hear your cat just meowing.
He's needy. I usually don't love my cats in the snake room, but I know he wants me more than to antagonize the snake, so I'll let him in.
Yeah, we can replay a little Arlington.
No, he doesn't. I've never had an incident like that.
That was so
I
funny.
had maybe 1 or 2 glass strikers over the years, but I come in and out of my room, and especially when they start getting in that glass strikey mentality, I wait till that dies down just even a little bit, and I open up their enclosure and I show them, hey, nothing's happening. Touch them with the hook and just let them sit for 5 minutes before I close the enclosure back up. And it's always kind of broken that mentality. Unless they're super, super hungry, like cycling for breeding, that kind of thing, then maybe I'll get a glass strike.
Yeah, there's I don't know, probably a couple times in the, like I go into my garage where my snakes are every day of the week, multiple times a day. And I probably say like 2 or 3 times when I walk in, depending if I continue going straight or I bust a right, I at least hear one smack. It's typically a turnate.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine with the attitudes on those. I mean, the Kalatoa stuff, especially,
it's not even
multi-generation captive bred. They're just pretty easy to work.
And it's really not even the attitude, because they're fairly pleasant to work with, but they're just food response is like a whole different level.
I can't wait to see those in the future, 10 years down the road, see if they're a lot more manageable in terms of their excitedness, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and most of what's in my garage is F1, so it's not very far removed.
Do you know where Phil's Halm is? Is that F1, F2?
F1. Yeah, there have not been F2 Halmaheras ever produced.
Okay. See,
we only have 1 pair of wild caught Kalatoas. Right? Yeah, there are Kalatoas. We only have 1 wild caught pair of Halmaheras in the country, and I think 3 clutches have been produced.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 2018, 2020, and 2022.
And that's when the old NBC commercial, the more you know.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely bottleneck. I definitely think that people are going to.
Is it as bad as like Tambalongan or?
I mean, so Tambalongan, everything that you can breed with Tambalongan is going to be related. Same with Halmahera. Same with Mindanao, Philippines. And
are okay, this is totally like sidetrack discussion, but are Halmas, are Halmas and Philippines similar enough in color and like pattern distribution where you would maybe want to outcross the two, make
Hold on.
50-50s?
You saw my Halmas and how dark they were, right?
Yes.
Okay. The one snake that you held. Do you remember the snake that you held? The super gold and yellow and silver?
Was that a Halm?
No, that was a Philippine. That was a
Phil. Yeah. His name was Phil, right?
Phil, right? So
Yeah.
that the 5-year-old manageable size animal that I'm feeding like a tank. And I mean, do you remember his color spectrum?
Yeah, he was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
And
but
I would
like,
say he's about the size of my breeder 75% Kalatoa female, the smaller one. About 9 foot and pretty slender bodied, maybe 15-20 pounds, right?
no, he's no.
He's even smaller than that?
Yeah, he's probably about 8. And he
Okay.
is super lean. He's probably 12 pounds.
I mean, that girl is super lean too, but
I haven't seen her, but yeah, I mean, no, drastically different.
you
The
would
colors.
be blown away. Like now I know how special she is just having another not sibling but cousin of hers, another 75%, 12.5% Jampea. And she's got another foot and a half, and another, like, girth is totally different. Like,
Oh yeah.
I got so lucky on that, how small that purple is.
I will say that if there's any two localities to take together, like with considering one of them is Halmahera, to take together to make a similar looking animal, it definitely would be Ternate. Ternate and a Halmahera. They're both.
So this is
from the
where I
Maluku
go back
region.
to our Shane Costello episode though, and talk about maybe just, breeding for attitude a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So
you can
maybe run. I mean, Phil's a boy. Run him to a Ternate. Run him to a Halmahera.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm curious to see how that works. That has crossed my mind, but definitely not at the forefront. But now that you're saying it and I'm digesting it a little bit, it definitely. I mean, I want to do Philippine Halmahera, Philippine Ternate. But
I mean, if you were able to get both of those in a year and just as an experiment, see how the babies are in terms of just socialization.
You got to, yeah. I mean, that's funny that I forgot. He isn't. He's just for an F1. Just super sweet and
Yeah, he was cool.
like, opened up the rack and got him. I mean, not even flying out of the rack, no nothing. Just kind of sat there and was like, "What's up?"
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like Philippines more than Halmaheras or Ternates,
Right.
just based on personality.
Right. And again, the female was in shed when you were here, but she's.
I thought my little tiny tiger girl was huffing and puffing, and then Sean goes, "No, it's just the Ternate in shed. He just huffs and puffs all the time."
Yeah, whenever he goes into shed, you'll hear a huff and puff every once in a while.
I was like, "There's no way this tiny little girl is making that noise."
No. But yeah, speaking of that, and maybe this will be kind of like a wrap up topic and conversation, but how awesome is it getting to see your production? You got to see your golden child at Phil's. I got to see my Kalatoa. I get to
got
see
a kiss. It was
I know.
Great.
Yeah, she that was nice, dude. Your little while we were it's the best, dude.
I told you I'm a wimp when it comes to getting bit. Now you guys just have proof.
No, I'm the same way.
And I mean, like I said, I don't love promoting bites on camera, so I'm lucky that we blocked out her cage with the couch that day. Yeah, and you just got to see me wince back in pain. But no, she was great, and it like I told Lucas, like I told Phil, Phil's very confident in his animals, and he just handles them a little bit differently than I do. And he's like, I tap her on the head and then I grab her no matter where she's at. So I was like, okay, well, if he does that, I'm going to do that. So I tap her on the head and she's still giving like defenses, still curious, like poses to me. And I'm like, Phil trusts her so much. I'm going to reach in. And then, yeah, I got nabbed. Boom. But no, I mean, little bit of FOMO seeing that golden child girl, but I
tell you at least once a month that was the one that got away.
Well, and I think anyone who was associated with that breeding, selling that, like Reach Out Reptiles gets messages about that animal constantly. Still, that was an animal produced 2 years ago. It's my favorite golden child I've ever seen. And, you know, as sad as I am that it's not in my house right now, especially with the gene stacked animals that I kept from that clutch, and seeing that everyone has an animal that looks like that. If you just have a 4 gene phenotype animal, just
Right.
browns out, has a stripe down the back, like, you know,
Golden Child's tough, man.
golden child is tough, but I truly believe that golden child with the rosettes down the side, really dark being anery, like, was just the perfect animal. I even think there's sunfire in that breeding, and I think they lucked out and got an animal that also has sunfire, because you see that rosette.
By they, you mean Phil?
Phil? Huh?
By they, you mean, I mean, not
Phil and Melissa, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There's the they. Okay, true.
Yeah. So they
Hi,
lucked
Melissa.
out by getting an animal that also had, I believe they'd have to prove it out, but I believe it has sunfire, because the last third of that tail just cleans out and the rosettes disappear.
Yeah. And I will say this, Golden Child has been one of my favorite codoms forever. And
I just get to make it better and smaller this time, is what I told them.
right. And I have, man, there are Golden Childs that just, like, when you see the right one, it just hits you. It hits you different. And because you know, a lot of Golden Childs now, you'll see they don't have the rosettes, and they're kind of a solid color with the brown, you know, goldish head, and
The anery darkening it up, or the motley darkening it up, is absolutely necessary.
and I think that like, when I say that it's like one of my favorite codoms, when I talk about like that animal at Phil's and Melissa's, that's one of those Golden Childs that hits me in that way.
Yeah.
I would never breed Golden Child because I'm not like a morph person, but if you produced another one that looked like that, I would get it as a pet.
Speaking of, did you see that super golden child that popped up on the forums that has been living for a while?
I don't want to talk about that. I got
We'll talk about it after.
I got a buddy who bought a snake from me who's local. He lives in Austin, and unfortunately paid a ridiculous amount of money for a super golden child from someone that, I don't know, I feel like should know better to not sell. And they showed me a video, and they even came over to show me the emails and back and forth. And I kind of just, I was like, dude, if you can, you know, get credit back to get another animal from them, send that animal back. You know, that animal's probably not going to live, you know, past 5 to 6 years. Now, don't get me wrong. Some can live longer, but it's kind of like the Jaguar thing.
Or Black-Eyed Lucy thing.
Right. It's one of those things where, like, it has it, even if it's a low expression of a neurological issue, whatever the case may be, it has it, which you have to just make the assumption that it's going to have a shortened lifespan. And even if you don't plan to breed and you want a pet, why are you going to spend $1,500 on a pet that's going to last half as long as, you know, a motley golden child?
Yeah. Yeah. There's ways to get pretty close to the animal you want, you know, leucistics, there's stronger leucistics, you know.
Yeah, super faners.
In terms of pattern changing morphs, ocelot, you know, I'd choose an ocelot over a jag any day. But yeah.
Did we take out the ocelot?
Huh? No, we didn't.
What, was he in shed too?
No, he wasn't in shed. I love ocelot. And, you know, I'd seen a lot of ocelot that weekend, so I don't think it was like the first thing that I was like, I love it. And I think I'm excited more about ocelot and just the future of ocelot, and some of the little 2 codom combos that we can see, and, you know, some of the recessive stuff piled on top of it in smaller snakes. That's what's going to excite me with ocelot down the road. Right. I love that you have him, because I know that your intentions with him are along those lines. But yeah, back to, you know, getting to see those 2 animals of mine for the first time since they've made it to their new homes, even though that tiger girl only made it, what, a month or 2 before coming out to Arlington.
Yep.
I didn't think it would hit me that hard. Like I knew I'd be excited to see them, and it was something I was excited about going into the trip. But when I saw that Anery Golden Child the first night and took her out, it was like, it was almost as good, if not better, than hatching out my first animals.
It's a really cool experience, and I'm a little spoiled because I've been to Arlington now 4 in a row, and so I've gotten to go and see my Kalatoa that Phil has multiple times. But even to this day, that, I mean, you saw the moment we went upstairs, what was the first thing that I did?
Yeah.
I went and got her out.
Well, that was like the second animal that I saw. I was like, where's one of Lucas's?
Yeah.
So you weren't there yet. I had to have some connection. I was like, all right, he produced this. That's cool. I can hold it in my hands now.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's the first thing I do every single time I get to his place. It's something that I'm always excited to do. And hopefully for anybody else that, you know, has bought one of my animals, I get to meet you guys and get to see those animals someday again, because it is, yeah, I mean, it's up there. What's up, Kat?
Sure.
She's just validating the emotions right now. But yeah, it's just, it is just as close as, you know, getting to hatch out animals. And I don't know, for those of you that have been breeding for a long time that watch this, you know, if we sound cheesy and corny, like, that's still new to us. Leave us alone.
It's just like I've said it and haven't said it in a while, but it just adds a little fuel to our fire every time that we get to see stuff like that. Or, you know, it's the same thing when we get a new Patreon member, anything like that. It's just validating that what we're doing, like, ultimately is
halfway
going somewhere
decent.
good. Yeah. Yeah. Like,
speaking on that note, to kind of, I want to introduce, you know, next week's episode. After you guys are watching this, our next episode is going to be the first segment of something that we plan to do kind of roughly once a month or once every, you know, definitely 5-6 weeks or something. But we are going to be starting a new segment called TikTok. And no, not TikTok like social media, like Retic. And we're going to be having on one of our Patreon members to do that with us, Kagan Andrew, who is probably a bigger geek than we are when it comes to reptiles in general. And she's just a wealth of knowledge and has great energy. So we'll be having her on periodically to do this TikTok, where we're just going to talk about what we got going on, what's going on in the community, you know, and even just, you know, advancing what we're doing. And honestly, I think it's an opportunity that the three of us, I think, are going to be able to sit down and bounce ideas off of each other and get inspired and motivated and do good stuff.
And maybe we'll just, you know, sit back, have some drinks, and have a good time. It'll be like the protect our parks of the reptile world, and I'm fine with that. So
right, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Lucas. Anything else to wrap up? Kind of, you know, we kind of talked about just shooting the shit tonight and not making it another Arlington episode, but I think we just had so much to unpack from that weekend that it ended up being an Arlington episode.
Yeah, but at the very least, we got to talk in depth about different type of enclosures. We kind of talked about naturalistic setups. We talked about our own productions, and I think what I really loved about this episode is we got to just talk about the people we love in the community, and just, I don't know, it was a feel good episode to be able to just have a good discussion about, you know, people that we appreciate.
Well, yeah. And I think ultimately, as this podcast progresses, I mean, we see what NPR does, and, you know, just podcasts that are successful in many other industries, you know, after they've been around for a while, they start just chatting.
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah, we've done
only
a lot
so
of
much
educational content, and I'm sure there's going to be stuff that pops up and that you guys are going to want some
Right.
clarification on. Still shoot those in the comments. Still talk to us about it, because that's
Please.
stuff that we love creating. But I mean, I'm excited to just see how this starts progressing with just us, you know, talking as professionals in this industry every week without a big game plan or agenda to knock out.
Yeah, there's only so much educational content without just, you know, beating a dead horse. And so we're going to start getting into year 2 is going to be, I think, a great year for us.
I think we're going to have to get vulnerable.
Oh,
shit.
Man, I'm a therapist. I love that shit.
I'm an introvert. I hate that shit.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next Friday. And for you Patreon members, we'll see you at the Zoom meeting.
All right. See you guys.